Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I'm on day number 2 of the 21-day challenge with Metatron and with my angels and guides. And I was very, very pleased that I was able to do this yesterday, and I was very, very happy that it just flowed so freely as it did. Today it's no different. It's flowing. It's nice. It's great. And I have to move over a little bit so I'm centered. And so I thought I would go ahead and get started on this because I've got some stuff I have to do before I go to choir tonight. I'm going to find out what music we're going to be singing. One of the good things is that the choir director sent us some music a couple of days ago, and it's a song from The Lion King, which is called "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" And so I'm like thinking, oh, this is really cool, and we're going to be singing some really great stuff. So we'll see what happens. So tonight we're going to find out, and tomorrow I'll let you know. And yeah, I'm really excited. It's going to be really fun. I think the music is going to be really great, and I think we're going to have a really good time with it. So, um, at any rate, yeah, it's the snow is starting to melt here. I woke up and there was snow on the ground, but it's like about 5 degrees Celsius, which is like above freezing. So, I mean, if you're in Fahrenheit, then it's above freezing. And so, yeah, I think that's really that's really good that it's melting a little bit. Over the weekend, it was like below freezing. It was very, very cold here. So it was like -5 degrees Celsius, which was, uh, I think Fahrenheit is 32 degrees, which is freezing in Fahrenheit. And that's probably about 28, 29 degrees in Fahrenheit. So if you're gauging in Fahrenheit, then yeah, pretty cold all the way around. But at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is day number 2 of the 21-day Metatron meditation challenge. And I don't feel like it's a challenge, really. I feel like it's just something that I'm doing that I feel very, very good about. So thanks to Deborah for the idea and for doing it. And if you're wanting to do it, then she has a Facebook page. You can go to it. I don't have the link because it's too much of a pain to post links directly off YouTube. So what I did was I just said go to Deborah Lupian, Voice of the Akashic Records, I think is the name of her page or YouTube channel, and you can go there, and she probably has all the links to all of the different things on her page, and you can click away. So we're on day number 2. Today's January 12th, 2026, and I'm going to just go ahead and get started. And I started with saying, yesterday, Sunshine and I spoke about the silence and how important it is to a person's spiritual well-being. And Nigel says, did you reach any conclusions or finite conclusions? I said, I realize that it is all true. It is a lot easier to contend with external challenges than it is when it's silent than when it is loud. And Nigel says, although it does require a little bit of both of noise to find the balance. And I said, is that another way of saying that one has to sometimes hear the noise to find the balance in the quiet? Nigel says, basically. I'm glad that you're talking to me. I said, why wouldn't I? Nigel said, well, your discussion with Sunshine yesterday helped me to maintain a safe distance. And he chuckles. And he says, of course, I know you didn't see me as a little energy. I said, Nigel. And he says, well, I'm only repeating what I heard you say yesterday. I said, I'm quickly realizing that you are a very cheeky guide. And Nigel says, then today let's dive into that. The notion of humor to contend with all of the things that are happening in the world. You understand that finding a reason to smile or laugh is imperative. You know that the ability to laugh during difficult challenges enables you to better work through them. As your guides, we do not like to see you struggle with the curveballs that life tends to give. We know that you worry about things that are out of your control. It is like the notion of wanting to be in control. And I said, yes, I keep thinking about Karen Carpenter. She wanted to have the control over at least one aspect of her life, and that was her weight. And Karen Carpenter comes in and says, yes, I did. You understood that. You understand that. I said, I do. But I hated what happened to you. You still are a musical hero to me. She says, I'm not a hero, Yvette. I just love music. And I said, you said that in present tense. Does that mean that music exists far beyond this earthly realm? And she says, sure, it does. The heavens ring with music. Didn't you know that there is a chorus of angels singing Gloria? I said, like that song we sang in choir. And she says, indeed. The love of music never fully leaves a soul. When you one day transition, we will meet in your meadow and sing together. I said, that sounds amazing. And she says, it will happen one day, but not for a very, very long time. You still have to make music there and know that beyond your world, the vibrations extend out to the universe. I said, is that why deaf people also enjoy music through vibrations? And she says, yes, the world operates through vibrations. It does not mean that you should go deaf to appreciate it. Everything is vibrations. The positive, the negative, the neutral. All things have vibration. Nigel says, yes, Karen's right. The world is enveloped in vibrations. Consider this. When there is a war, poverty, hatred, the Earth's vibration exudes a certain feeling. When a psychic says that the ETs will not allow certain things to happen, it is then them feeling the planet's vibrations. This vibration spans out to them and brings about a certain feeling. You mentioned the ETs that you called father. Back when you were 20 years old, you had a dream about an ET that showed himself and his family to you. This ET you called father. That, of course, was not his name. It was a label, a distinctive characteristic of him that you assigned to him in order to make him seem more real to you. I said, was he real? The concept of him was real, Nigel says. The dream was a dream, part of your imagined manifestation, but it is not physically real. The one you called father was an ideal, a spirit that touched your spirit, just as I was a sort of concept to you when you were a little girl. You see that the concept of physicality is a limit that is a part of your current reality. When you transition, or by human terms, die, you cease to be bounded by the physical reality. You will one day see all the people who inspired you, whether it be Karen or Peter or Sky or any person who now lives in the eternal realm. This is why you and many like you are not afraid to die. You are more afraid of dying than the actual act because you know from people who've had NDEs or near-death experiences that it is a glorious and beautiful experience. I said, it sounds like the eternal realm or the meadow is similar to heaven. Nigel said, heaven is depicted in books and on television barely scratches the surface. I said, what about life reviews? Should I be afraid? Nigel says, heavens no. You have no reason. But this does enter into something that perhaps we should discuss. It is more or less a question that you asked once. Why is it that good people are transitioning and the bad or evil ones are not? I said, I have asked that question often, why someone good must go and the evildoers are still here spouting hate and vile. Nigel says, it is not an uncommon question. You are seeing this play out in real time. The good people who transition are unafraid of that life review. They understand, perhaps not in a physical sense, but in a deeply spiritual one, that they have nothing at all to be afraid of. I said, so what I concluded is accurate. And Nigel says, more than that, it was divinely inspired. The person or people who are enslaved by their feelings or of inadequacy try and often succeed in persuading good, meaning people of their inadequacy. The thing that most spiritual seekers need to recognize is not to answer this with hatred or resentment, but rather to recognize it for what it is. I said, I read somewhere that a man who harmed that woman last week was angry because he could not exercise power over her. It made him so angry that he harmed her, forced her transition. Nigel says, yes, that's exactly what happened. And you probably are not surprised that this happened because this man felt his masculinity was being challenged. That is what fearful people do. Now, magnify that by 20, 30, or even 100, and you will see where misogyny comes from. The people who are most afraid of their mortality are those who fear that life review. They know beyond any doubt that a life review will display all of the insecurities that are dwelling beneath them. Remember, some 40 years ago, you were 15 or 16 years old, and you asked about the same thing. You pondered if someone could exist or someone could will themselves to stay alive. The answer is yes, they can. Some people call it living on borrowed time. But in essence, what it is about is that sheer will that a person has. You have a similar you have a similar will. When you sang last month, you were unwell and you willed yourself to sing. You did not get really sick until after the moment had ended. You did that. It was your will that enabled that. And if it is the same sort of will that enabled your grandmother to live beyond the 9 months the doctors had given her. I said, I remember that. She was determined to stay alive until my great grandmother, her mother, had transitioned. The doctors were amazed, but it totally showed the magnitude of her will. Nigel said, exactly. She willed herself to live. Do you not think that the man in the White House is doing the same? I said, I think so. He probably knows that his life review will not be pleasant. Nigel says, that is why so many of these people are able to stay alive. But there is no such thing as forever. Engaging human life. No such thing as forever engaging human life. Everyone will one day transition. And the essence of this is why people must live their best life in the moment. I said, is that accurate what I surmised? Will this person eventually get caught up with? I've given up hope on earthly justice. I am rather hoping for celestial justice. Nigel says, yes, this is what will come. I said, sooner rather than later. Nigel says, I cannot tell you. That is precise dates and numbers. But I can tell you this, nothing lasts forever. The date will come when the physical strain will overwhelm, and then he must face his mortality. I said, many physicians are saying that it is soon. I tend to put more of my energy in that science as opposed to the suppositions. Nigel says, you have stepped into Ramon's area. But yes, the logic of science is a bit more reliable than human predictions. This does not mean nor imply that predictions are not accurate. You have predicted things, or as Sunshine said yesterday. But the idea is this. Prediction is not just based on energy readings, but based on the physical realities that present themselves to you. Let us look at it this way. You see a man standing at a lean, a sign of a medical condition. You hear him stammering or muttering words that sound akin to the drunk uncle at the dinner table. You hear ideas about conquering others or visions of grandeur, and you ask yourself what sort of drugs this guy is on. Then you hear the word dementia and all the signs that medical science has affixed to someone who suffers from it. Finally, you hear about the family where said condition runs rampant. What else can you assume? Can you use these points as a, and reach a conclusion that states both parents had it, siblings, cousins, uncles, and aunts had it? I'm not saying that you are wrong to listen to predictions. If they bring respite, then by all means. But if you listen to your conscience and weigh the knowledge that you have, then you don't have to be psychic to infer that the person in question does have a certain condition. I said, then his people tell us he doesn't have it at all. Nigel says, indeed. This is where you as a race are at. Do you believe what you see with your own eyes, or do you believe the narrative that they are trying to push onto you? It becomes a question of trust. Do you trust your own instincts, or are you willing to give away any of them the benefit of the doubt? I said, I've heard people say, don't believe your lying eyes. Nigel says that's where humanity stands right now. The people willing to be brainwashed who believe anything or trust what or do they trust what their instincts and guides are telling them? This is why the light workers are so valid and important right now. The world needs to recognize that people need to not only trust their instincts about this, but decide accordingly. This is why people say, turn off the TV. And as Nigel was saying this, I could hear Peter Tork's voice in my head say, shut off the idiot box. And Nigel continues, go outside, allow yourself to walk in nature without fear or trepidation. Just allow yourself to be, to understand that all will be well. Regardless of what happens in the days or weeks ahead, the universe, your guides, angels, and those who have passed before you are watching over you. And at that moment, Fred Rogers says, we are here, Yvette. We are with you, and we only a thought away. That is what makes all of this so grand. I said, only a thought away. And he says, of course, only a thought away. And I said, I miss you. He said, I've never been more than a thought away. And I said, thank you all, Karen, Nigel, Fred. I will try to remember that. And Nigel says, I know you will. So that, I was thinking it was going to turn into a big discussion about laughter and about using laughter as a way to contend with all of the things that are going on. But as it turned out, there was some really profound insights given to me through all of this. So I'm really kind of gobsmacked by what came to me today, and I hope that you enjoyed it as well. There's a lot of stuff happening in the world. There's a lot of things that are going on, and there's a lot of questions that people have. But what the guides are telling me through this, and what I'm getting in my heart and in my spirit, is believe and trust in your own instincts. Believe and trust in your own intuition. People are going to be out there, the dark energy is going to be out there, and they're going to try and sow doubt into your spirit and tell you that you are losing your mind, or you are crazy, or you are not in your right mind. The reality is you are. If you can look at things and say, yes, I see what happened here, and I see what's going on, and I see what people are trying to tell me, or what people are trying to convince me of, and I say no, then you are basically on the right track to finding what it is that is important to you. The guides have been very, very adamant about this to me, and they have said, as all of this has been playing out, they have said to me, just be patient and just understand that your timing is not our timing. The universe operates on its own time frame, and it's important to respect that, or to, God, there's something with the lighting here. I don't know, but anyway. So I look like I'm drooling or something, but no, it's just the lighting here. It's just really bad. So I have to maybe one day get a new camera or something, because this is like ridiculous. But anyway, but at any rate, the guides are telling me that it's important to trust your instincts, trust yourself, trust what it is that you are seeing, and don't allow someone to convince you that you did not see what you know you saw. And that's what they're telling me. That is what they're saying. That everything is happening right now for a reason, but it's important to recognize that if you see something, or if you feel something, more importantly, if you feel it from the depth of your soul, do not let somebody convince you otherwise. Do not let them try and tell you to not believe your lying eyes, if you will. If you know something to be true and you feel it in your heart and in your soul, they're telling me trust that. Trust your instincts, trust your intuition, because that is where your guides are speaking to you. And that's what I got. So I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing. One fine day, I am going to get a new camera for this thing because this is ridiculous with the lighting on here. It's not very good. I noticed that a couple of days ago. I was on Gerald's channel, Tarot Stash. Hi, Gerald, if you're watching. Um, but I was on his channel. He had his 5-year channelversary, if you will, and I came on to congratulate him and to get a card and get a card reading, which was very cool. And I noticed that the lighting on my camera was just absolutely terrible. So I am going to see what I can do to get a better camera and a better, a better setup here so that it'll look at least a little bit better. Because right now I don't want to put everything on my mobile because my mobile has only a certain amount of space. And I want to and it's a lot faster to upload from the computer to YouTube than it is to upload from from the mobile to the computer. So, or to the YouTube. So that's why I'm at here. So anyway, thank you very much. I babbled on long enough, and I thank you for watching. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Tomorrow I'll be back with another meditation, and hope you enjoy them. Thank you. Take care, and as always, namaste.